1970s Wonder Woman. Yeah, the image of Lynda Carter immediately pops into your mind, spinning into her costume to the strains of that iconic theme song. That show debuted in 1975, but just the year before, there was an attempt at bringing the comic book to life on network television that went in a very different way. By the late 60s, traditional Golden Age superheroes were a bit on the nose with the public. Only Batman had made it to a live-action format, and then only by playing it tongue-in-cheek. In the comic world, Wonder Woman had gone into a funk and moved away from the traditional storylines by having Diana get by without the trappings of the character, such as her costume, backstory, and powers. When the idea of bringing Wonder Woman to TV was suggested, people were wanting to distance themselves from the goofy superhero antics of Batman and instead try a more modern approach, which just happened to coincide with the Wonder Woman comic, restoring the traditional elements to new comics. In this TV version, Diana is shown briefly on an unnamed island populated only by women and tasked to go to the world of men. Then we cut to Steve Trevor. He's in Washington DC in some unnamed agency, and he's dealing with an attempt to extort money for a list of undercover agents. Diana is not an agent of whatever this organisation is. She's not an agent, but his secretary. Diana tells him she needs some time off to see a dentist, and it's at this point strongly implied that Diana herself will unofficially investigate the extortionists with Steve Trevor's approval. So while it's never said explicitly, it's heavily implied that he knows her secret. By the end of the movie, it's unclear as to how closely Diana integrates with Steve's organisation. Here, Diana and Steve are clearly friends, but with none of the flirting the later series indulged in on occasion. The telemovie was written by John D.F. Black and directed by Vincent McEvity, both of whom had worked on Star Trek, and the tone is less comic book, more suave spy caper. Very similar in tone to some of the early episodes of The $6 Million Man, where Steve Austin was briefly set up as a super spy, rather than just the bionic fella. Diana Prince, also known by Steve as Dee, is played by Cathy Lee Crosby, who made many guest appearances on TV dramas over a very long career, but she's best known as the co-host of early 80s magazine show That's Incredible. Her Diana is completely different from her successor. As Diana, everyone stops to admire her, and she's hit on twice in the 70-minute runtime. She even willingly goes on a date with one of the antagonists.
Let me make love to you.
Why?
Just to piss in his beer.
Reach into
You misunderstood me. I didn't mean why should you want to. I meant why should I?
We'd call her sassy these days, because Diana at no point ever takes shit from anyone, which was not something that you would usually see in an early 70s drama. It's also unclear how secret the Wonder Woman persona is. She's clearly just a secretary to her co-workers. She's just a woman to be admired out in public, but just by changing her outfit into a tracksuit, the main villain knows her as Wonder Woman. Crosby is decent as this Ice Queen version of Diana, but again it's a very different take on the character. Very different from what we'd come to know. She's less diplomatic. There are minimal differences in appearance and characterization between Diana and Wonder Woman. While she talks about her invisible jet, we don't see it. Yes, we wouldn't see it, but basically it's just mentioned in passing.
I have this marvelous plane that flies that much faster than yours. You see, my plane is invisible.
She has bracelets, but no tiara or lasso. Diana does have a utility belt with a rope and grapple, but that's about it. Her powers are more heightened instinct and reflexes than mystic powers and gadgets. The story is relatively simple. A man named Smith has a list of undercover agents and wants money in exchange for the return of the list. We don't see Smith directly until the last act, but spoilers, it's Khan. Ricardo Montalban had been and was a star, but still a few years off his most remembered roles in the TV series Fantasy Island and of course a certain small sci-fi film in 1982. There's a pair of killer henchmen, a man and a woman dressed exactly the same, who look like a couple cosplaying Starsky. They work for an over-the-top douchebag played by Andrew Prine, who can't make his mind up whether he wants to kill Diana or bed her. And for some reason there's a bureau from Amazon with free Prime shipping. And finally, Angela, a woman from Diana's unnamed island who's been seduced by the materialism of the world of men and obviously set up as a recurring villain in a potential series. It's certainly different from the series that followed, but by the time that series ended, it had almost looped back to the format of this telemovie. Steve Trevor driving a desk and Diana off on spy missions by herself. There is definitely a slightly more adult tone to the proceedings. So I have to ask the question, does Diana have a drinking problem?
Under the circumstances, I didn't think you'd be sailing the Mediterranean.
It's a curiosity. It's not terrible, and it's interesting to see a very different take on the same material as the iconic series. I didn't watch this telemovie and think about what might have been. If they had continued along this path, we probably wouldn't be talking about Wonder Woman the way we do now.
Wonder Woman, I love you.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, and be sure to check out some of our other videos.